Discernment simply means working out how best to live our life, how best to make decisions that will work for our benefit. And although it's a bit of a lost art, discernment is the most essential of all human traits if you want to live a rewarding and successful life. Recently, I was reading one of the comments on one of my videos, and a commenter noted that I mentioned self reflection and making a decision based on this. The commenter then asked me how we can make the right decisions, as it's easy to think you're doing the right thing, and then it turns out that our choice is the wrong choice. In this channel, I talk a lot about self reflection and how we have to find out what matters to us and then make changes in our life. The general theory here is that when the inside is congruent with the outside, we become both successful and happy at the same time. But the real change is not just figuring out what we need to change, rather it's about making the right choice. It's about discerning the best way forward, and this is a real art. So how then can we discern what's best for us in life? In psychology, there is a term that is referred to as affect, and affects refer to feelings and how we feel about something. However, an affect might feel good and yet not be good for us. Getting drunk, for example, can feel good, but it's not good for our health. Addictive behavior in general feels good, but it always undermines us and prevents us from living our best life. Another example might be a life partner. Partner A might marry partner B and feel great about their choice, and yet years later, their life is in ruins because of this relationship. Even though this person B might not be a bad person, they are a bad person for person A in that they bring out the worst in them. The pop singer Grace Jones, whose popularity peaked in the 80s, had a song entitled, "I'm Not Perfect, but I'm Perfect for You." And it's a very accurate title. Happy relationships are not about finding Mr. or Miss Perfect, rather they're about finding somebody who brings out the best in you, and this could be said about every decision in life. If you want to learn the art of discernment, then learning to realize that what feels good, the effect, is not what matters. What matters most is the long-term consequences of our decisions and actions. Slogging it out in the gym doesn't feel good, but it gives us a good body, and hopefully good health as well. Studying hard is stressful, and yet it opens up many career pathways in our lives. Spending time with friends and family members and working through issues is also a bore. However, in the long term, it produces a happier relationship life. So is it the case that we simply force ourselves to make hard choices all the time? Is grit the way forward? The simple answer to this question is no. Many of us can see in either our parents or our grandparents that they made all of the hard decisions and that they are not happy with their decisions, and many of their life decisions turned out to be disastrous. The problem with just taking the hard decisions is that life does not have to be hard. Sure, we have to take on some challenges, but I see a lot of people who live in a paradigm that states that they must always be at war with someone or something, and as such they've created a reality of endless conflict in their lives. The single biggest challenge we face as human beings is our tendency towards habitualness. We all like to remain in certain mental emotional states while avoiding others. They are comfortable. But there is an objective reality to life versus our subjective inner world. And if you want to progress in the subjective world outside of ourselves, then we have to learn how to work out which way the wind is blowing and take appropriate action. Today, being strict might be necessary. Tomorrow, maybe we have to be lazy. The next day, dynamic, and the next day, simply flowing with everything, and so on. There is no one way to proceed. If you want to learn how to become good at discernment, then you will have to become good at responding in real time to every situation as it comes along. The second thing which we must consider in developing our ability to discern is congruence. The main reason why we feel frustrated and irritable is a lack of congruence in our life. What I mean by congruence is a case of parallel between our outer and inner life. You see, we have inner values, and when our outer activities are incongruent, in other words, they are similar to our inner values, then we'll feel happy. If our outer life is in conflict with our inner values and our belief system, then we'll have irritation and frustration. So a lot of people feel and think one thing, but are acting out doing something else, and it creates conflict within that person, which usually comes across as frustration and irritability. For example, this YouTube channel and its videos are all congruent, both with my inner life and also my day job. My work is my play, and my play is my work. This is the ideal situation to balance these things. Okay, I know it's not always that easy to get congruent with our lives, and even for me, it took a long time to get here. But the point is that when we are going in the right direction, or to some degree we're going in the right direction, things will align for us. A nice mathematical analogy is that of Venn diagrams. The ideal state is that of a subset, whereby one state, the inner self, our inner personality, with our inner value system, is in the other state, like a subset. The inner state is in the outer state, for example. In other words, your outer life is a reflection of your inner life. Now, of course, this is not possible for everybody, but at least we should be able to overlap, whereby there is a meeting between the two circles of the Venn diagram, one being the outer self and the other being our outer life, so our inner life and our outer life. We can see our circle is representing some aspect of our life, our outer work life and our inner personal life, for example, or perhaps work relationships. In an intersection, there is no perfect congruence, but we still get along. But what we need to avoid is what's called a disjointed Venn diagram, where neither A nor B connects in any meaningful way, or perhaps they connect, but the points on them don't connect. When there is a disjoint between a person's inner and outer life, then nothing on the outside correlates with anything on the inside, and the end result is frustration, irritability, and a general feeling of loss and displeasure. Imagine you're working as an investment manager. How would you spend your time? Managing your portfolio, of course. We have to start seeing that the different aspects of our life as if they were parts of our portfolio. So just like an investment manager might ditch some stocks and then invest in others, they will do so to balance their portfolio. Well, the same way we have to do this when managing our lives. We begin by observing ourselves and learning about ourselves and taking stock of the different aspects of our life, and then slowly, over time, start making changes and seeing what happens. Try not to make very big changes, just small ones if possible. As I make this video, it is now January, the start of a new year. If we take a leaf out of the IT worker's book, they work by iteration. Each iteration has been the complete process at work, and then they reiterate but with very slight changes. And then they make some improvements and make changes once more, and they reiterate the program. The end game is not perfection, but rather an improvement. We have to take this approach to our lives. Sometimes we are forced to take quick decisions, and often these decisions will come back to haunt us because they did not work out very well for us. But really, there's nothing we can do about these individual decisions which had poor outcomes, because we're forced to make a choice, and there's kind of statistical odds that the choice might be good or the choice might be bad. But where we do have influence is in the big picture, and working towards weeding out everything in our life which holds us back and stops us from being a better and happier version of ourselves. If over a year we have to make 1,000 decisions, and the majority of them are moving us closer to being true to ourselves and become a happier, more fulfilled version of ourselves, then we are progressing. It's that simple. The third aspect of discernment is not going alone. As human beings, we are subjective, and we cannot really appreciate ourselves objectively. The best approach to take before making big changes is by bouncing our ideas off of people who are close to us. But why wait till you have some dramatic decision to make? In which case, turning up at your friend or relative's door and begging for advice, chances are that they will also give you faulty advice because they're not in the loop, and to some degree they're shooting from the hip. So instead, make an effort to be open enough to let some people into your inner sanctum. Let them be a part of your life and bounce ideas and suggestions off of them on a regular basis. Let them be a part of your life and bounce ideas and suggestions off them on a regular basis. This way, they will also be aware of new things coming up on the horizon, and they can give you feedback as you go. Of course, you have to be careful about how you let into your life. But there's no point in living like a secret agent. It's a known fact that those who are more successful in life have an inner circle of supporters who help them. But to have this inner circle of well-wishers requires two things. First of all, you have to be an open person, a person who opens up to others. And secondly, you have to be a giver and not a taker. If you are needy and take from others and never give back, whenever you seek advice, you look for help from them, but you never give help back, then why should they go and help you? So you have to be a giver rather than a taker if you want people to help you. So there you have 3 tips for discernment in your daily life. Learn to not focus on whether it feels good or not, but rather on the long-term outcome. But don't just beat yourself up. Rather, what works out, whether it be easy or hard, find out what is the thing to do, the appropriate thing to do today. Secondly, look for congruence in your life, and even if you do not have it now, work towards it over time. Finally, develop an inner circle of well-wishers on whom you can bounce ideas off of and who will help you get that 360-degree field of view that is required to make good decisions. Finally, what can we learn about discernment in the Christian sense of the word or the religious sense of the word? I was raised as a Christian, and discernment was a phrase which was bandied around quite a bit by my Auntie Maureen, who was a qualified spiritual director. My auntie gave me many invaluable lessons, but from a spiritual point of view and also from a daily living point of view, her emphasis was that we have to be very careful about discerning the way forward. The main thing which we have to avoid is superficiality. We have to learn to look within, and this is called the gift of discernment. I also remember reading a book by the famous Christian saint, St. Teresa of Avila. And in her autobiography, she wrote at length about how to discern good from bad spirits, and she made a very simple yet relevant point. A bad spirit might appear, as in look like, a good spirit, but the feelings of peace and love will be lacking. Mischievous spirits can fool you by taking on a disguise, but they cannot change their inner nature, as their inner nature is quite evil. If you are a religious person, you might want to bear this in mind when assessing spiritual experiences. No matter how a spirit might appear, it can change its inner nature, and so if you check out the atmosphere that a spirit gives you, you'll be able to discern if you're being deceived or not. Now here's the thing. Even if you're not religious or a spiritually minded person, you can still learn something from St. Teresa of Avila, in that God, nature, the universe, call it what you will, provide signs, symbols, and omens which help you discern, and they will help you in the discernment process. The famous psychoanalyst Carl Gustav Jung would name this as synchronicity. When we're going in the right direction, the entire universe will work with us, and we will experience weird coincidences, signs, and symbols which support us and tell us we are going in the right way. We are thinking of moving to a new city, and that very day we bump into someone we know who lives in that city. We're wondering if a college is a good fit, and then we open our phone and immediately see a 5-star review in that college. We're thinking about buying a car, and we walk down the street. The person in front of us is on the phone complaining about that very vehicle. Discerning these coincidences, signs, and symbols is in of itself an art form, and we should be careful not to fall prey to magical thinking. Just because the astrology page in today's newspaper suggests we'll have a difficult day doesn't mean we're going to have to buy into that. Also, just one coincidence on its own does not mean anything. However, repeated signs, symbols, synchronicities are probably indicating something to us. God does not speak through a megaphone. The still small voice is pointing the way forward to us, but we have to learn to listen to it as it speaks through signs, symbols, and synchronicities. Try where possible not to rush into your decisions, but also be confident that there is a higher power available to help you find the right way. Prayer is another tool which can also help us in discernment. Simply ask God, or your higher power, or higher self, or whatever works for you, and ask help from above. And you'll be surprised how things work out. Let go of your own ego and make your prayer quite clear that you require help and guidance in moving forward. Ask and see how God, the universe, your higher self will help you. If you're willing to be still for a little while, the still small voice will speak to you through signs, symbols, and synchronicities. I hope you liked this video. If you do, please give a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.